Why Jamaicans are still not being paid $30,000 per week. I did those calculations and sought an opinion. Copilot the AI said that, "My calculations are modest. The AI understands the numbers more than I do, so there you have it. We are living in freaking 2025. We can't keep making ungodly people fool us." They tried to make Ibrahim Traore look like a madman for proving that they give black people baskets to carry water. We cannot stay under the illusions. We think it only happens in Africa, and that's a problem. Jamaica and the Caribbean are not exempt. The Judases make us broke and tell us that it's our fault. Let's call them out or spew them out. We need and we must have freedom from this awful unending slavery cast upon every dimension of our existence. Why we earn so little? It has nothing to do with all of the lying excuses the government makes. No prime minister should fool us anymore. The alternative is an opposition who only knows to tell us lies even when he knows we know that it is a lie. Make that make sense? We are not Americans over here. They are lying. Why don't we get paid better? The difference is that we are black, and the imperialists use roast-bred fruit politicians to keep us as slaves. Well, there is one white one who believes that we have to believe him even if he lies. A legacy of slavery. The facts that I speak cannot be rebutted because the proof is overwhelming in this time, age, and with access to information. Black patsy leaders are wicked. Sometimes it's because they are educated. What a paradox. Sometimes it's because they are greedy and sacrifice us to scrape for themselves. Stay with this family on the bulletin board and let's unveil some shocking truths together. We need to get paid and farmers must be subsidized. Where a lot of money was already produced, don't come talking about lack of productivity. $4.32 billion for tourism alone. That's productivity. These prime ministers only keep lying to us. We are not poor, so we should not be living poor. When it comes to giving our people the good they deserve, prime ministers and oppositions are always complicit and in agreement. But no Jamaican should be receiving under $30,000 per week, and that is fairly modest. People must survive, and a poverty margin cannot be the rightful and prescribed standard of living for any people when they are working their livable wage values. This is a bulletin board commentary. Feel free to join this corner today. Why Jamaicans still not being paid better wages? We won't take lies for the answer anymore. Open your eyes, join the resistance, and let the Judases spill the beans. Jamaica earned $4.62 billion from tourism this year. That's more than 700 billion Jamaican dollars. The population is less than 3 billion, and that's only tourism alone. That's a lot of production. For those who will come pushing negative talks about lack of productivity to confuse us with ungodly complexities, go sit down. Not even rocket science is confusing these days. We don't have time for distractions. We make enough to justify livable wages. Just like they used to tell the slaves they had to work harder and were not good enough to deserve more, they tell you about lack of productivity and then brag about the humongous scale of the produce, like tourism, for example. Then the prime minister comes and say you didn't work hard enough. Tourism keeps exceeding expectations. In a world where the minimum wage is $16,000 Jamaican a week, just over $100 US dollars. It's not making sense. So let's ask the question out loud. Why are Jamaicans still not being paid although the money is more than being made? Jamaica sells paradise, but pays its workers like it's purgatory. While tourists sip cocktails on all-inclusive beaches, the people serving them often earn less in a week than the guest spends in a day. And compared to global tourism wages? We're not just underpaid, we're being exploited. And let's be clear. From the start, I said that we are making enough money to justify productivity. That lack of productivity lie ends here. Is slave they want to slave out black people? And yes, each individual must justify his pay, but each employer must justify a fair trade too. Why must it only go one way all the time? This isn't new. In the 1700s, Jamaica was called the richest colony under the British flag. But that wealth sat in the hands of a few white planters. They stole everything from us. In fact, they even stole the tempered iron technology from Jamaican slaves, brought it to Britain and made England a world power, but now they talking about Jamaica poor, with all they owe us. The days when they called Jamaica rich, Black people, both enslaved and free, lived on the edge of starvation. Today, with tourism alone making $4.6 billion and a black brogad as prime minister, it is not even that much different. But don't come to me with excuses that sound like rocket science. To hell with that. It's 2025 and distractions don't work. Today, the names have changed, but the structure hasn't. From slavery to imperialism, but it is the same bull droppings they dribble. And now the house slaves on both sides, although one is a shady British man, wear suits and triple their pay, breadcrumbing you and expecting gratitude. And dem lie, doing anything including blood and fire and war to get a hold of our dough, especially the British one. I hate when people tell me lies that everyone already knows isn't so. Tourism revenue has more than doubled since 2010, but wages have barely moved, increasing by only about $35 a month over 14 years. Real wage growth remains under 2% annually, often not keeping pace with inflation, meaning the worker actually gets poorer. The COVID-19 dip in 2020 shows how fragile tourism-dependent economies are, yet recovery didn't bring proportional wage increases. This disparity raises questions about who truly benefits from tourism booms: foreign investors, hotel chains, or the local workforce. They say we must increase productivity before we raise wages. But $4.62 billion was already produced. By whom? By the same workers they say aren't productive enough. So what's the real reason? Is it colonial bias? Yes. But worse, it's colonialism wearing a black face. The same system that underpaid slaves now underpays citizens. And the same logic is used. You're not worth more. But we are. The government says it's doing its best. That inflation must be controlled. That wage hikes must be fiscally responsible. But other countries pay more. Other countries raise wages and still grow. Other countries of different races, I mean. So what's really going on? Maybe it's not about inflation. Maybe it's about control. Because if people earn more, they travel. They learn. They question. And a people who can move freely can't be kept in place. So the question becomes, is the black government now performing the oppression of the slave masters? Do our leaders suffer from house slave syndrome? Because they speak of freedom, but legislate poverty. And it's not just wages. Jamaica imports $1.4 billion in food every year. Tomatoes, lettuce, carrots, all grown in other countries, while our own land sits underused. We could double agricultural output with greenhouses, irrigation, training, and services like plowing and flat-rate water for farmers. We could replace $250 million in imports with local food. But we don't. Because poverty is not accidental. It's organized. $200 per week. That's not luxury. That's dignity. It's still below the GDP per capita. It's still modest by global standards. But it would change lives. So why is it so hard to give? Because a well-paid people are a powerful people. And a powerful people are hard to control. But we're done being controlled. We're done being lied to. We won't take productivity as an excuse. We won't take inflation as a threat. And we won't take lies for the answer anymore. Bulletin board, where the truth is told even when it hurts. Like, share, subscribe. And ask the question they don't want you to ask. Why are we still not being paid? We agreed on $30,000, but, hypothetically speaking, what if the minimum wage was $40,008 per hour? Would it be so wrong? Would Jamaica keel over and die? We are not poor. We are being kept poor. We won't take lies for the answer anymore. Jamaica is making enough to pay $200 or $5 per hour. That's not in question. But $40,000 or $8? We will see. Jamaica earned $4.62 billion from tourism in 2025. The average hotel worker earns 1.1 million Jamaican dollars per year, or about Jamaican $21,000 per week, barely above minimum wage. Meanwhile, the average hotel room costs 25,000 Jamaican dollars per night. One night stay equals a week's pay. Conclusion: we are making enough money to justify productivity. The problem is not output, it's extraction. Bermuda versus Jamaica, the racialized wage divide. In Bermuda, majority white, the average salary is $89,000 per year. In Jamaica, majority black, the average salary is $1,253 per month, or $15,000 per year. Bermuda's GDP per capita is $99,800. Jamaica's is $5,403. Conclusion: the difference is not capacity, it's control. It's race. It's colonial legacy. The $8 hotel wage demand is modest and just. A wage of 36,000 Jamaican dollars to 40,000 per week, US dollar 230-250, is still below the global average for tourism workers. It would allow workers to save, invest, and build stability, not just survive. The idea that it's unfair to other sectors is a deliberate distraction. Tourism is the top industry. It should lead the wage domino effect. Land ownership is the other chain. Over 40% of land in Jamaica is unregistered. The government owns 75% of squatter lands, yet makes it nearly impossible for people to get titles. The law requires 60 years of occupation to claim Crown land. In the UK, it's 10 years. I used to work in Bermuda. I saw the difference. It's not about how much money a country makes. It's about who controls it and who they think deserves to live well. Jamaica is not poor. We are being kept poor. And we won't take lies for the answer anymore.